Hello again, listeners. Sharita here once again, and we have got a special treat for you today. Joining us for a special feature interview is Mr. Mark Steffe, President, CEO of First Command Financial Services. In his position, Mark leads the company on the continuous improvement of the First Command client experience, focusing on military engagement, the continuing adaptation to a rapidly evolving digital world, and of course, leadership development. Before joining First Command, Mark served in a number of leadership roles with major companies in the financial services industry, including TIAA and UBS Financial Services. Mark earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in finance from the University of Illinois, graduating with high honors. He holds Series 7, 8, 23, 63, and 65 in securities registrations, plus life and health insurance licenses. It is such a pleasure to chat with you again, Mark. So glad to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's jump right in. I would love to know, why is now a good time to start thinking about personal finance goals for your family?
That's a really good question. I think building a financial plan takes time and commitment, and I think that's probably the reason that most people never get around to doing it. But now with the world, temporarily slowing down because of the pandemic, we've got more time, I think, than we ever have. I can tell you that, here at home, I'm seeing my spouse and my kids a lot more often. It's giving us an opportunity to spend more time together. And I'd recommend folks using that time to review their budget, review their finances. And I think with the pandemic, we've also found that we can, spend less and save more as we're not driving as much or going out to dinner as much. And so if there's a silver lining in the pandemic, I think that's it. We've got the time to do some things that we might not have had time for before.
I totally agree with that, because I think sometimes when it comes to financial conversations, finding the time and almost the emotional energy to make that happen is challenging for those of us with spouses, service members in the military. But ironically, this seems to be a very ideal time to make that happen. And thinking about that conversation with our service members' spouses, do you have any tips on how we can budget with our spouse?
I think one of the things you just said is a big part of it, is budgeting with your spouse. It really has to be a team effort. And oftentimes spouses aren't on the same page. And it's critical to have that discussion and agree that you're going to work together to work on the family's budgets. One of the things I would tell you, I would go back and look at a credit card statement or a bank or debit card statement from 5 or 6 months ago before this coronavirus got started. And I'd pull the most recent credit card or debit or bank statement and to see how your expenses have changed, see how expenses or where you used to spend money, you're not spending that money anymore. And I would try to capture those thoughts, and that kind of separates your nice to haves from your have to haves. And you'll see some things that have gone away and that you could probably do without even when the economy starts to recover. So those are things that can probably be dedicated to a long-term, investment plan or a savings plan. I'd also start looking for expenses that have crept into your budget that maybe you weren't using before, because we don't always save that money. Sometimes we exchange one expense for another expense. And I try to identify those as well. And some of those might make sense, and some of those, frankly, might just be filler that you've just found other uses for your money. But some of those might also be nice to haves. And so get real thoughtful around what you used to spend money on, where you're currently spending money on. Do that side-by-side comparison. I'd put it in writing. It means more if you put it in writing, whether that's formally on paper or you do it digitally, whatever works best for you and your spouse. I would do it that way. It just means more. It's easier to go back and say, these are the things we agreed to. And our memories don't, work against us as much if it's in writing. And then I would really encourage people to revisit this on some sort of regular or consistent basis. That might mean monthly, that might mean quarterly, but this is something you want to stay on top of. And I would tell you, I think the most time-consuming piece is developing it the first time. Then as you move forward, reviewing it doesn't take nearly as much time. So if you can put the time to it now, I think you can save yourself a lot of time going forward and then keep yourself on track while you're doing it.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think that's a really empowering suggestion to kind of look at maybe that gap or the things that have changed in the last 4, 5, 6 months, compare and contrast. And maybe in that gap, there's really some neat places for some financial growth as a couple, as you come together and kind of eat that frog, essentially.
Exactly.
Of laying that foundation, because I see that with my spouse as well. Starting out a new year, figuring out our budget, takes a little bit of work, but then we feel like we're set and we just have to tweak it for the next 10, 11, 12 months.
Exactly. Exactly. And I just want to jump on that word empowerment that you just used. The feeling of empowerment you get by really taking more control over your finances, the psychological benefit of that is so beneficial, especially now when so many things are out of control. Again, maybe another silver lining is the ability to sit down and really take control of your finances and have that feeling of empowerment, like you're really having a positive impact on your family. And I think that's just, a good psychological benefit as we go through this as well.
Thinking about that piece of empowerment and making those first steps, I feel like when people meet with a First Command financial advisor, that's kind of a step of empowerment. But can you share with our listeners what people can expect if they choose to move forward and meet with a First Command financial advisor?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That first meeting with a financial advisor is really informal. It just gives the prospective client or the military family member and the advisor a chance to get to know each other, just to understand if there's going to be a good fit, if there's going to be a good personality mix, if the service member sees the value in what a First Command advisor provides. And there's no personal information collected on that first visit. It's really just to get to know you and see if this is going to be a good fit.
So really thinking about that no obligation, kind of like a trial, almost like, going on a first date, be like, are we compatible? Is this going to be a good chemistry? And then if the couple decides to move forward with First Command, how does that financial planning process start beyond that?
It starts exactly where you said. Well, that first, informal meeting might be with the service member or the spouse. We'd love that to be together. That's not always the case. But to start the planning process, it's really necessary to have both spouses there. It's not enough just to talk to the service member. I think we all know that the spouses make the vast majority of the financial decisions anyway. So it's really important to have both spouses at that meeting. The first formal meeting following that informal meeting I talked about, probably about a 2-hour meeting. The advisor is going to sit with the couple and really get to know as much about them as they possibly can, both financially and personally. We want to understand, where are you today, and what are your hopes and dreams and aspirations, and what are you trying to accomplish 5 or 10, 15, maybe 20 years in the future. We want to know about what kind of finances you have now. We're going to take a look at your budget and crawl through that in great detail. We're really going to learn about how much risk you're willing to take and how you feel about investing. We're going to talk to you about insurance and investments and savings. So we're really going to cover that broad spectrum. After that meeting ends and we've got all that information, the couple will leave and the advisor will go to work on building the financial plan. That takes typically, let's call it a week to get that completed and get the couple back into the office. And at that point, the advisor will not only present the financial plan and say, here's your roadmap from getting you from where you want to be today to where you want to be 5 or 10 or 15 years from now. The advisor will also share with the couple how they could implement that plan. So how much of your plan is dedicated to investments? How much is dedicated to insurance? How much is dedicated to savings? So we don't just develop and deliver the plan. We actually help the couple understand how to get that plan started and how to get it implemented.
And I want to just share something with our listeners on that topic. You think about that first formal meeting being 2 hours, and it sounds a little intimidating. And I'll say right now, when my husband and I met with George with First Command, I was a little nervous because I feel not so equipped financially. I didn't learn about that growing up, but it was such an encouraging, empowering experience because George, really what you just said, Mark, he taught us. He didn't judge, my lack of information, but he was so motivated to help us learn how to create that roadmap and essentially, kind of drive that bus for us. Say, come on, get on the bus with us. Let's move forward. There's no judgment about how much you're bringing or not to the table, but you're making a fantastic first step to just open yourselves up and put yourselves out there. And so thinking about the no judgment zone, really, and really just the encouragement, empowerment, but then also this really cool part of there's no cost for a financial plan for active duty military families. That still blows my mind because it's such a great service. Share with us a little bit more about how you guys can do that free for active duty service families.
We just didn't want there to be any barrier to entry on getting military families on a path to financial security. And we found over the years that if that cost was an issue, and that if people felt that they were going to be charged just for that planning process, then it was a major barrier to entry, that people would not even come in because they were afraid maybe they couldn't afford it, or was going to be too much, or what have you, or there was some obligation there. And we wanted to stay true to our mission of coaching those who serve in their pursuit of financial security. And if taking cost off the table to allow more families to have that opportunity for financial security made sense, that was the commitment we made. So several years ago, we stopped charging active duty military families for the financial planning process. We also didn't have at the time, and we still don't have, a minimum account size, because again, that was another barrier to entry. And people thought, well, I don't have enough money to put into a financial plan, or no one's going to want to work with me. Who's going to sit with me and help if I don't have much money? What we've always worked with is no account minimum. So many of our clients start with little as $100 a month into a mutual fund. Many of them, the first act is getting them out of credit card debt. They've got $10,000 or $15,000 in credit card debt. We help them refinance that down to a much lower interest rate, from maybe 22 or 23% or higher, down to maybe 7, 8, or 9%. Save that interest, pay down the debt, put some of that money towards a financial plan. So, as you said, just trying to eliminate reasons for people to not come in and to meet with an advisor, and really help them get on a path.
I love First Command's heart in this. Like, you just feel the heart of the mission, that you all have our best interest as active duty military families in mind. And the great thing is, it still kind of blows my mind, is it doesn't stop there with no charge for active duty military families, but you also hire military spouses. Share with us a little bit more about that.
We're big fans of hiring military spouses at First Command as advisors. But what a great group to hire from. As you well know, Sharita, they're highly educated, hardworking, resilient. There's a lot of trust in the military spouse community. There's a natural market for our military spouses who are advisors, because we're serving the military, obviously, and they're well connected inside of that community. As I mentioned earlier, most of the military spouses are the ones making the financial decisions already, and so they're accustomed to the challenges and the issues that military families have, and so the empathy they have when they're meeting with another military family comes through completely, and the understanding and the trust that gets built so quickly because of those shared experiences makes a huge difference. And for us, like most companies, we've seen the unemployment statistics and the underemployment statistics of our military spouses, and we just have a commitment to trying to do our part to help drive those numbers down, to get more military spouses employed, and not just in a job, Sharita, but really in a career. And we have about 180 offices around the world, most of them near a military installation. So when that inevitable PCS comes up, the skills you develop in one First Command office are completely transferable to another First Command office. And so you can kind of pick up in the new office right where you left off. And so we're really trying to provide these portable careers, and not just a job that you get in one location and a different job in a different location.
That's so important, because I think that's a big challenge, of course, for military spouses, is I don't want to have to reinvent myself every 2 to 3 years with, quote, just a job, but deepening those roots, and not only creating a career for ourselves, but also a career with a company that has such a heart to truly serve and empower military families is huge, because there's such an understanding. And Mark, you're totally right. I think military spouses are the greatest people in the world, and I'm incredibly biased, and I'll admit that right now and have no shame about it. But I just see these mil spouses doing unbelievable things, and love that you're opening up a space for them to excel in a way that provides income for their family, but also gives back to that military community.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's when you think of the career where, as a military spouse, as a military spouse financial advisor, you get the opportunity to help so many military families, and at the same time, you're helping with the financial security of your own family as well. And it's a complete win-win. And in my time at First Command, I've seen the passion that our military spouses have for taking care of military families. And when you've got that kind of passion, success is almost, I can't say it's guaranteed, but you've got a really great shot at success when you have that kind of passion.
Absolutely. Where can our listeners go to find even more empowering information about creating a financial plan, specifically working with First Command?
The best place to go for that information is right on our website, which is firstcommand.com. And once you get there, there's a lot of great information. So you're going to see this big blue banner in the middle of the page. There's one button that says Find Your Advisor. So if you just want to search by geography, for instance, so if you're in a particular state or a zip code, it will show you the districts we have in that space, and then it will show you by each office a list of advisors in that space. So if you know someone, you could search for them that way. Or you could go into that same blue banner, and there's a button that says Get Started Now. And that's really the best place to go if you're not already a client. There's one button after that says Get Your Finances Squared Away, and it's going to ask you a series of questions just to get to know you a little bit, and then to figure out which advisor in which location might be the best fit for you. And so the system will help figure that out. And also under that Get Started Now, there's a space where it says Browse Careers with First Command. And if any of your listeners are interested in becoming an advisor, that's exactly where I'd encourage them to go. And maybe there's a new career for them in their future too.
Well, I thank you so much for sharing that. And I can't say enough good things about First Command because we've been personally impacted through our connection, learning about you all through Army Wife Network last year and building that relationship with our local office in El Paso near Fort Bliss. And so, Mark, before we wrap up this interview, what else would you like to add or what would you like to share with our listeners?
Well, first, I'd just like to thank you for your comments, Sharita. I'm not surprised to hear you've had a good experience, but as the CEO, I can't tell you how happy that makes me to know the kind of experience that you and your husband have had. And for me, I guess what I try to take away from this is pretty much an optimist. So I try to look for the silver linings in even a pandemic like we're going through. You know, the time we're getting with our families that we didn't have before, the opportunity to sit down, you review our finances, review the budget, really empower ourselves to take control of those finances and put our families on a better path, or maybe for the first time, a path to financial security. I couldn't encourage your listeners to take advantage of this opportunity to do exactly that.
Absolutely, and I can't think of a better way to wrap up our conversation. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you. I appreciate you not only making the time to chat with me again for this special feature interview, but also for how you support Army Wife Network, but even more so, your mission, your heart to serve our active duty military families through financial advising. And I look forward to this continued relationship and just appreciate everything you're doing for our MilSpouse families.
Thank you for all you're doing. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Listeners, I encourage you to get connected with First Command Financial Services, both in person at any one of the 180 locations they're located near duty stations, and also online. As Mark mentioned, you can check them out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at First Command, or on their website, firstcommand.com, and click Get Started. You can reach out to Mark on LinkedIn by searching Mark Steffe, that's Steffe, or you can go to our website, armywifenetwork.com, search First Command, or click under sponsored blog posts, and you'll see dozens of outbound links and some really empowering information to help you on your financial fitness journey. We'll be right back in the studio with our host.
Such empowering financial information. So thank you, First Command team. Remember, if you would like to tap into their resources, connect with them online at firstcommand.com or through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching First Command. You can also find the president and CEO of First Command on LinkedIn by searching Mark, M-A-R-K, Steffe, S-T-E-F-F-E.